I'm Mike Hughes. I used to serve on the programme committee for about the last 4 years. One thing you'll find out is about the different committees that run NANOG. When you serve on the programme committee, you can only serve a maximum of 2 terms on the programme committee before you then get turned out. So that would be 4 years if you serve the maximum term, which is what I just did. And the idea of that is it keeps the programme committee fresh all the time. It keeps fresh ideas coming in, rather than the same programme committee being there for like 10 years and putting the same boring old talks on. So it's important to keep the programme fresh and interesting for you guys, so you guys keep coming. I think that's that ring gone. Yeah, cool. That sounds good to me. Okay, so get started. Hands up if this is your first NANOG meeting, and hopefully we should get lots of people put their hands up. Okay, Greg Dendy, yeah, that's not the first NANOG meeting, is it? He's a programme committee member. And you keep your hands up if you're also on the mailing list. So there was a few people who put their hands up, this is their first NANOG, but they're not on the mailing list, is that right? Was there some people who aren't on the mailing list yet? Go and check the mailing list out, sign up, because a lot of things go on there that are interesting. I mean, particularly knowing that it's National Squirrel Appreciation Day, which I think, I certainly didn't know about 2 weeks ago. Also, have you ever been to a network ops or sysadmin type meeting or convention before? So yes, I have. I'm sure there's who hasn't? About half the room. That's cool. Okay. One final question, and then I'll stop asking you questions. Are you local? Put your hand up. It's actually quite a lot of people travel, only sort of 4 or 5 local people. Okay. We get about 30% newcomers to most NANOG meetings. And that number's fairly consistent, but the overall attendee numbers don't go up every time. You don't get 30% growth in members and attendees. So what we're wondering was, is it just that people will come because they're local? Or is it that people will come just because the meeting content's interesting, that kind of thing? So what are people coming for when they come to NANOG? What are people looking for? Well, first of all, they're trying to learn interesting stuff. So they're hoping to listen to some interesting talks, learn from some great speakers that they probably haven't had a chance to see before, and just pick up ideas. The other thing they want to do is also catch up with folks that they know already, so people from within their own industry, people that they get to see regularly and meet regularly back home, but maybe catch up with them here. Ooh. It's like something out of a sci-fi film, isn't it? This. Yeah. Well, I'm trying, but I'm not going to stand like that either. This needs more height on it. Okay, so they're catching up with folks that maybe they've met through a previous meeting and meet face to face. So a lot of people come here for hallway conversation. The other thing that they obviously come to do is meet with new folks that hopefully they'll meet again at future meetings. Drink free beer. There are socials. There's there's a legendary beer and gear, and there's a great social from Terramark this week on Monday night. And also do business. So they're coming here to actually do business, do deals. So that particularly applies to things like peering, buying transit, buying services. People actually come here to meet account managers and buy service, or come here to meet other peering coordinators and negotiate peering and changes to their peering. So that's the other thing. When you see people out in the hallway, sat around talking and not listening to the talk, they're not just out there goofing off and having a good time. They're actually getting some real work done. Meeting organisation. So I'll talk to you about logistics and how this all works. So effectively, how the meeting is made up is it's made up of tutorials, which run today. There's then the general session, which is the whole conference together in a great big ballroom, about 500 seats, and a big podium at the front. And those are all just single track talks with everybody in the same room. And then there's this thing called tracks or BOFs, which is where we break out into smaller groups of more specific interest. And those happen sort of usually on the afternoons of Monday and Tuesday. We've got beer and gear, which is one of our ways of engaging the vendors, and events such as the Terramark event that's happening tomorrow. There's also what we call the open seating room. It was formerly known as the terminal room when we didn't all carry laptops around. It used to actually have some PCs in that you could use to check your mail and would capture your passwords. Yeah, and then obviously there's breaks and lunch. But effectively, the open seating is somewhere for you to go off quiet to one side and talk about, just to get some work done, use your laptop, or to go and sit quietly with a colleague and talk about something. So, okay, next. Who is NANOG? Well, actually, NANOG is you. NANOG is a community. You also get a say in how NANOG is run. So you get to elect the steering committee, and you get to provide feedback via the community meeting. That happens later today. NANOG's also going through a really big evolutional change at the moment, in case you're not aware. For a long time, NANOG has been an activity of Merit Network, the academic network provider in Michigan, and they kind of inherited running NANOG from how things were done in the NSFNet days. NANOG has gone through several changes over the course of its life cycle from the original meeting, and it's going through its next sort of growth spurt, if you will. And what is happening is NANOG is going to cease to be a merit activity from the next meeting, and it's becoming its own activity with its own company, with its own board of directors. So that's actually quite, it's an exciting and interesting time for NANOG. But hopefully, as far as the meeting attendees are concerned, you won't see any significant difference, other than hopefully the meetings will stay at least the same in terms of quality and content, and hopefully it will continue to improve. But you're NANOG, you have a say, and this is your meeting, so you get out what you put in as well. So, we're all wearing name badges. For those of you who don't know RenProvo, this is RenProvo. I can't guarantee a hair colour is the same as in this picture. It is changing quite a lot at the moment. But here is modelling the full selection of name badges. I think there's half a meeting around the neck there. But we've all got these name badges on. And they'll say who you are and where you're from and your AS number. And those kind of details. You'll see that some people have got coloured badges. The blue ones mean they're the steering committee, NANOG steering committee, and also the NUNOG board of directors. Yellow means you're the program committee. They're the guys that are responsible for soliciting talks and selecting the talks. So if you've got an idea for a talk, or if you hated a talk or something like that, collar somebody with a yellow badge and tell them what you think. It's really important to give us feedback in how the meetings are run. Red is communications. They're the guys that are responsible for doing things like running the mailing list and content on the website. So questions about, like, why did you not moderate this thread and remove the National Squirrel Day discussions when you should have done. Yeah, those are the guys that you can go and harass about that. And then green is the organisational staff, so that's the people that work for Merit right now. Some people have got dots on their name badges. And these are down by the registration desk, and you can put them on if these are the sort of things that you do. So if you see somebody with a big red dot, that means they sign PGP keys. So if you want to expand your web of trust for PGP keys, go and talk to somebody with a red dot on their badge. Also, PGP signings happen during some of the breaks, and that would happen in the open seating room. A green dot means that somebody's a peering coordinator. You'll see a hell of a lot of green dots around the meeting. There's a lot of people that do peering come here. And basically, yeah, if you want to talk to me about peering, those are the people with the green dots. Black is the network security guys, and those are the people that tend to get involved in the security box. So, as I said before, the agenda's broken down into different types of sessions and tracks and things like that. So the general session is basically podium, talks given from the podium, with time for questions at the end. Each talk lasts between usually 30 minutes and 45 minutes. And everybody just sits together really in the same room, and it's just that's the only thing going on at that time. We also try and have some different types of things. In terms of we try and find some interesting keynote speakers whenever we can. The other thing that you'll see BOFs and tracks, and those are much smaller groups. They're usually not podium based, they're far more sort of floor based and a lot more discursive, smaller group as well, so 150 people, maybe 200 tops. and that means that it's much smaller, much more easier to have discussion, and those tend to be less podium focused and a lot more interactive. Tutorials, we've got those this afternoon. We've got some great stuff on V6. There's some stuff on DNSSEC, and there's also, I think, Richard Steenbergen doing like a peering 101. The PGP key sign I've already mentioned, and then there's other happenings that happen during the week. So when we all decide that we don't all want to sit together in the same big freezing cold air-conditioned ballroom anymore, and we break out into tracks, what is it that you want to do? How do you decide what you're going to do? First of all, naming. Sometimes they're called BOFs and sometimes they're called tracks. They're pretty much the same, really. BOF stands for birds of a feather, so that was kind of when you get a bunch of people that were interested in the same thing, and you say, yes, right, we're going to have a little side meeting off here that wasn't sort of like a major meeting with mics and floor mics and webcast and all those things. That's kind of become a little bit more, I think not official, but I'll say official, and that's sort of what track is really. But they're specialist interest groups, as you said. So go and have a look at the agenda, see what things look interesting to you. One thing I will say is some of these BOFs and tracks are their own communities that have known each other for years. But don't be put off by that. These are people that have known each other for years. They often go drinking together. They know each other outside of work sometimes. And you'll go and look in there and go, oh, I feel like a bit of an outsider. But don't be put off. Just try and join in, and because everybody's actually here to meet people. That's, if we go back to one of the early slides, you're here to meet other people. There are also smaller groups, as I said, much, much easier to get involved. You come here to participate. That's why you're here. I think most of the time, maybe to get drunk, but you're mostly here to participate. So don't be afraid of asking questions. There's floor mics in every room, so you'll find that there's a big mic on the stand in the middle of this room. Don't be put off. This chap's Peter Cohen. You'll probably bump into him during some point of this week, and he'll ask really grumpy, cranky questions. But don't be put off by people like Peter. They're really, really nice, honest. Whenever you do use the mic, state your name and affiliation for two reasons. First of all, people know who you are, rather than go, well, who's that strange guy with the beard that asked that funny question? People will know who you are, and if they want to seek you out to talk about that question later, they'll know who you are and where to find you. That's another important thing. The other reason that you should state your name and affiliation is for the webcast, because all the main sessions are webcast, so that people that are participating via the webcast can know who's actually asking that question. There's always time for questions at the end of talks. So, yeah. Lightning talks. They're basically quick 10-minute maximum, and the program committee choose them the previous day. So they're solicited, during the meeting, and people submit them during the meeting. So even you could do a lightning talk if you feel so inclined, and it could be a topic that's very last minute and relevant. I'm sure we're probably going to get lightning talks on the Egyptian network takedown. It doesn't even have to have slides. It could be opinion as well. So the way it's vetted by the program committee is somewhat different to how a general session, 30 to 45-minute talk is vetted, because it's lightweight. It's only 10 minutes. They're quick to prepare, quick to do. And you may find you have an interesting discussion with somebody in the next 2 days and think, hey, we could do a quick lightning talk on that. And that would be great if people could just participate at the first meeting. So actually, talking of participating at the first meeting, is there any newcomer in the room who's actually giving a talk? 3. Wow, that's cool. 4. Fantastic. So there you go. People are coming to the first meeting and they're already going to go and stand up on a podium and talk about stuff, which I think is brilliant. Important stuff now, beer and gear. So, here's a big switch, and I think that was like one of Bricade's, there's Bricade stands at one of the last meetings, and they bought like a new thing with them, and it was a real one. I actually asked Greg, and I said, is that just like a fake display one that won't work? And he said, no, it's a real one. It's actually got to be put back in a box and shipped back as soon as this is finished. So beer and gear is just one way we engage our industry sponsors. I think it's really important that we actually do continue to have a good sponsorship stream, because that keeps the whole overall price of the meeting down. so it's actually affordable for people to attend. But it would be really horrible if there was like vendor sales talks and all that kind of thing being put in the program. So actually what we do instead is we say, well, you sponsor a cocktail hour and you can bring your stuff in and you can have a stand and you can bring material in there. So that's a Monday evening networking, food and drinks, and there's a bit of swag and stuff like giveaways and that kind of thing. And there's the sort of spread that you get at Beer and Gear, lots of food and lots of people, and a good chance to have a chat and catch up. The sponsor contributions also provide food at breaks and also continental breakfast each morning, so you don't need to worry about finding breakfast if you're attending NANOG. Just roll up outside the meeting room and you'll find there'll be fruit and bread and croissants and coffee and tea and things like that. So you just roll up like 10 minutes before the session starts, grab your breakfast and get sat down. And then every day as well, there's coffee breaks with snacks, and that's also another thing that is sponsored by the vendors and the supporters of the meeting. And what you'll find is some of them will sponsor like a whole break, and they'll have a table in the corner, and so you can actually go and talk to them about what they're doing. Again, we're really grateful to our sponsors, because if they didn't put money up for NANOG, the meeting would not have the sort of great facilities that it has in terms of the AV and the wireless network and being in good hotels with good meeting facilities. I'm talking of hotels with meeting facilities. Does anybody else think this hotel is huge? Did anybody else have trouble finding this room? Yes. So I've actually got some plans. Most of it is happening on this floor. This is the level above the reception area, so most of it's happening here. You've got the general session in the big ballroom, which has got the yellow circle around it, and the tutorials are happening in the stuff with the blue sort of turquoise circle around it. So fortunately, it's all happening mostly on this floor, and it's not spread out. A couple of meetings ago, we were actually in a venue where the meeting was spread out over several floors. And some people that were in a tutorial that was on another floor didn't even know it was, well, they wanted to go to a tutorial, but they couldn't find it, and that's because it was actually 2 floors down. But again, this is just enormous. It's completely vast. It's the size of like a small town in the UK, this hotel in itself. Important thing for tomorrow night, downstairs, Beer and Gear is downstairs in the bayfront, which apparently has a really nice big picture window and a view of the boats and stuff going on in the bay, and that's downstairs. To get to that, though, it's a really long way around. You have to go all the way around the restaurant and all the way around the back of the bar and all the way around the back of Beyond, and eventually you come to this ballroom here at the far end. But again, it's another 10-mile hike. The other thing, I think the Newcomers breakfast is in the bayfront tomorrow as well. So I'll come on to the Newcomers breakfast in a minute. It says on your agenda, lunch on your own, and therefore you do need to actually go and have lunch on your own. People will come and enforce and check that you are not having lunch with your friends. Actually, no, it's just not catered. You have to go out and find it for yourself. There's plenty of stuff within a few blocks, and we're giving you 90 minutes to go and get lunch, and it's not starting till 1 o'clock. The idea behind that is that the sort of midday lunch rush has already gone and passed through the restaurant, and hopefully when like 10 hungry geeks come up and say, "Well, have a table for 10, please," and the seating person goes, "Oh," they're actually not going to feel as fazed by somebody coming up and asking for like a table for a lot of people. There's some information online on the NANOG information from the local info from Terramark. That's got about 10 restaurants on of varying price ranges. I think one of the ones nearest to the hotel is actually a very expensive Italian. So I think don't fall into the trap going to the place nearest to the hotel, because it might be quite an expensive lunch. But there's lots of other stuff over in the sort of downtown area in terms of sandwiches and that kind of stuff. The other thing, as I said before, I feel like I'm repeating myself and probably am, it is not all about the talks. The talks are interesting, yeah, and they're one of the things that help you justify to your boss why he should give you money to come here and sign off your travel. But it's a big chance to meet with lots of other people, lots of other like-minded folk that are doing the same sort of jobs as you. It's a good place to learn. It's a good place to spread clue between people. So take a look through the attendee list. Again, don't be afraid of asking questions, network in the hallways, and more than anything, enjoy the socials. Monica here decided that she'd take karaoke to a new high and got on the stage at the last social and started singing with the band. But there's something going on most nights, as well as beer and gear. All attendees are welcome, and you know, we usually promise not to make you sing. Surveys. Tell us what you think. I'll drum this into you before you leave. Tell us what you think. There's a survey usually for every day. So people think, why are they asking us again and again? Well, it's actually important to work out what people think of each day as it happens, because we may be able to change something more quickly during the course of the week. So something that people didn't like on Sunday can be fixed by Tuesday. The other thing is every day is a little bit different in terms of the content and in terms of how the spread between buffs and tracks and things like that. So there's a survey for every day, and you'll see people stand up on the podium and say, fill out your survey. And they really want to know what sort of things you guys want to get out of NANOG and what worked well. And it could be anything from the content of the talks to the actual logistics of the meeting, like that there was not enough cookies at the break or something like that. Anything like that is important because it helps fine-tune the logistics of the meeting and makes all the meetings in the future go smoother. And usually, as an incentive, we'll make sure that there's something to give away. Newcomers breakfast. That will happen on Monday morning, so that's tomorrow, isn't it? Yeah. I'm trying to work out what day it is. I came from New Zealand. I'm actually British, but I was in New Zealand last week, and I came from New Zealand, and somebody said, what time is it right now? So they're 6 hours behind here, but tomorrow. So I'm like, what, Monday? Yeah, that'll be tomorrow. So Tom Daly, Tom is here in his natural pose here with his blue Dime DNS shirt and a drink in his hand. And Tom Daly's going to host the Newcomers breakfast this time, and that's going to happen from 8:30 on Monday. And the whole point of that is that, said about networking and meeting other people, you can get a chance to meet some more newcomers. There'll be some people that aren't here today that probably are new to the meeting, and you may meet some other people, meet more of the programme committee and people that organise the meetings. So that will be hosted over in the nice room with a view of the bay. That's the bayfront one downstairs. And that will happen from 8:30 until the main session starts at 9:30. And that's just, the idea is that's just a mixer and get some people talking and, you know, not feeling left out. I feel like I've charged through this, so if anybody's got any questions, please ask. Definitely silence. I hope you found this useful. And go forth and drink coffee and enjoy. Welcome to NANOG 51. Thanks.